So the NBA trade season has pretty much already started. Again, for those of you who didn't see, we did actually have the first trade of this NBA year of 2024. Really, I think this actually happened in 2023 for Americans, but it was like first day of 2024 for me. I was like watching the greatest Abella Danger video ever, and then I just got some like notification saying that RJ Barrett had been traded to Toronto and OG to the New York Knicks, and then I was like, oh crap, trade period, the trade bell, trade news, all of the above is all happening now, and a bunch of more news has come out since, of course, now the first trade of the season. One of them, of course, also having to do with the Toronto Raptors again, where it is now being reported that the Dallas Mavericks are extremely interested in trading for Pascal Siakam. So again, it is being said here, the Mavericks offer for Pascal Siakam could be a package surrounding Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and draft picks, and that's being reported by Jake Weinbach, who also reported that the Mavericks were interested in him. There is a potential trade again here that does give the full explanation of it. That does say Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, Rashawn Holmes, and a first round pick. And then of course that would go to Toronto, and Dallas would therefore receive Pascal Siakam. Now I actually genuinely believe this is a really good move for the Toronto Raptors, because we know now how much they have struggled, unfortunately, just to go out in free agency and sign players over the years. Again, there's been rumors for years now that they've been interested in all of these free agents, and the only guy they unfortunately were able to sign, but fortunately were able to sign, as in like he's a good player, but unfortunately like holy crap, only one guy decided to go there, was actually Dennis Schroeder, who signed on a 2-year deal, basically because it was believed he was promised the idea of starting. Again, now at the time of making this video, he has been moved to the bench, and Immanuel Quickley is starting due to the fact that I think many believe Immanuel Quickley, including himself, can be a starting point guard in the NBA. So again, that of course did happen, but the realistic thing with Toronto that I think has been the case for not only this season but last season is, technically speaking, the Toronto Raptors have the star power. Last year they had Pascal Siakam and an emerging Scotty Barnes, and of course Fred VanVleet, who some believe is a all-star caliber player, some others believe he is very overrated. Again, whatever your stance may be on him, he still did make an all-star game at one point as well. So they had all that all-star caliber right there, and they actually had a pretty good starting five. Issue is they legitimately just had no bench. Like last year, their bench, like I couldn't even really tell you off the top of my head their full bench. Like I think it was Malachi Flynn, Precious Achiuwa, Thad Young. I think Gary Trent had some games off the bench, but I believe he started a lot of the year. Then of course they've decided to make some moves now where they brought in Jakob Poeltl last season as a starter. Unfortunately, they did lose Fred VanVleet in free agency, but again, that might be considered fortunate to some Toronto fans. And then of course they brought in Dennis Schroeder this offseason and Grady Dick, who Grady Dick of course hasn't played a whole lot yet due to just being like arse. Yeah, this guy named Dick is arse. Where am I going with this? I'm not exactly too sure, but what the OG Anunoby trade did do for them was, of course, brought in 2 starters for 1 starter, meaning that a guy like Gary Trent and Dennis Schroeder could pretty much now come off the bench. Again, Dennis Schroeder was moved to the bench for Immanuel Quickley. Of course, RJ kind of took OG's spot, and somehow along the lines, Gary Trent has been moved to the bench now as well. But the thing is, if they were to make this trade with the Dallas Mavericks, it would make a whole lot of sense for them, because they bring in a legitimate bench now, and yes, they do lose a star, but I believe Scotty Barnes is becoming a legitimate all-star, and give him a year or two and he could potentially push for being a top 10 player in the NBA, right? The thing is, if you do that and you put an actual bench around him, I'm sure another all-star potentially somewhere along the lines could definitely pop up, and then I think it would make a lot more sense. So again, this season they kind of went into the year with 2 all-stars and a pretty average bench, and then it looks like for next season they're going into it with potentially 1 all-star, but an elite bench and a capability to have another guy develop into an all-star. I have a feeling maybe in a year or 2 we could see Grady Dick maybe improve, maybe through the draft this year. Rashawn Holmes is not a very good player in my opinion, but Tim Hardaway Jr. off the bench for them could be really good. And I also do wonder, could Josh Green possibly start on this Toronto team? Like, they could be looking at a team that's like Emmanuel Quickley at the 1, Josh Green at the 2, RJ Barrett at the 3, Scotty Barnes at the 4, and Jakob Poeltl at the 5. That is a very young and inexperienced starting 5 that could be very good in a couple years. But then off the bench, you're going to have so many good players off that bench, like Gary Trent, who I think they should be bringing back. You'll also have Dennis Schroeder now. You'll have Tim Hardaway Jr. there as well. Just absolute scoring buckets off that bench. Then again, if we look at this in the Dallas Mavericks point of view of things, Dallas also come away really well in this trade because Josh Green has not been the guy they've exactly wanted him to be, unfortunately. Again, I still feel like they're lacking a natural power forward off this team. Like, I believe there's just been a ton of different guys who have played that position. Derek Jones mainly for the year, I think. And then, of course, I think I've even seen Josh Green and Tim Hardaway Jr. play small ball power forward throughout this year. And then you've got Maxi Kleber, who has played some time there. I think he's been injured for a lot of it, though. A couple other players have run that power forward position. But Josh Green hasn't really been the guy they've wanted him to. And then you look at, of course, I think Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway's the big loss out of this deal. Again, Rashawn Holmes, they legitimately don't need him at all now because Derek Lively has just become such an awesome player, and Dwight Powell's still been doing his thing off the bench. They really wanted to bring in another center. Dwight Howard is literally just there in free agency and looking to come on a contending team and try and play some minutes, but also be a really nice veteran and a leader. But again, overall, you could be looking at a starting 5 that does look like Luka, Kyrie, Dante Exum potentially, who it looks like they're rolling with at the 3. But if not, maybe Derek Jones slides back to that small 4 position. Again, he would add really nice defense in that lineup. So I maybe even think Jones might still start. Siakam at power forward and then Lively at center. There's like legitimately not much that team doesn't have. You have 3 legitimate, really awesome scoring options in, of course, Luka, Kyrie, and Pascal Siakam. Then you've got, again, a really good interior guy in Lively. You got a really good perimeter guy there in Derek Jones. 3-point shooting across the board is really good. And then off the bench, you'd still have guys like Josh Green coming off that bench. I would assume he'd probably get moved there. I think they would still roll with Jones starting because he's actually been pretty good there. And they probably still want a taller guy in that lineup, but I'm not exactly too sure. That team is just really, really good. And then they've got a ton of quality, nice bench players there too. And because they're losing 3 players in this trade and they're only getting back 1, I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Dwight Howard did get signed to this team. There are still interesting free agents out there that they could also try and target who might be cool. Or they might even try and trade some extra first round picks to bring in some more bench depth, you know, across the line. You know, there's contracts they can trade like Maxi Kleber, right, where they could maybe improve that bench if they want. Kleber's still a solid player off that bench when he is healthy though. Again, there's a lot of different possibilities for this Dallas Mavericks team, and if they were to get Pascal Siakam, geez, that would be a big 3 while also having good depth, which not many teams have been able to do for this longest time in the NBA. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you guys think the Dallas Mavericks are going to do? Are they going to trade for Pascal Siakam? Should the Toronto Raptors trade him or not? I'm not exactly too sure. I would very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to my gaming channel, my IRL/long channels. Links for them will be in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.